That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Stunning comeback win! Ovechkin shoots! He scores! He scores! Number 895! Wouldn't love to have his name on that cup.
All right, welcome everyone to Bayonets and Brews, brand new History Talk podcast. Episode 1 is here, baby, and it is going to be an awesome one, banger show. I am joined tonight by my friend, my colleague, Tyler McGraw, also known as the Unfiltered Historian. You can check him out on YouTube. Great YouTube channel, and he is also with Emerging Civil War as well, their social media team, and he works at Manassas. So this guy's been around a little bit. Tyler, what's going on, man? How's it going?
It's a hell of an introduction, Josh. Thank you. And just also wanted to thank you for reminding me of that sore spot I had Sunday night watching the Bills somehow come back against the Ravens. But that's okay. That was Sunday. That was last week. I haven't really recovered from it. Let's move on. Thanks for inserting that and reminding me about that.
Hey, that's in honor of our good friend Chris Mikowski.
That's right. Now, this is awesome, and I want to thank you so much for having me on for your first episode alone, and also somebody that's really near and dear to me, Emory Upton. So for those that know me, I am a huge Upton fanboy. I think Chris is himself coined that term my obsession with Upton. That started a long time ago, so very excited to come on. I've been in a bit of a World War II mood here lately, so this is kind of good to be grounded back into the root of where I got my start, which is the Civil War and my love for Emory Upton and his story. So again, thank you for having me today.
Dude, thank you for coming on. I mean, for those of you guys that don't know, Tyler and I are actually really good friends outside of, doing this. And but Tyler is like one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to Major General Emory Upton, who is our subject for tonight's discussion. And Tyler, who is Emory Upton?
So that's a loaded question right there. Who is Emory Upton? Well, Upton himself, and this, I'm not even going to dive into his birthday. I'll give you a chronological history of Upton too. But if you want to ask the question who Upton was, a very stout, mentally bricked soldier. And when I mean mentally bricked, this guy has such a driven passion for the Army. It's even in his looks there. Upton is obsessed with the Army, and in later years he says that he's married to the Army. So he is I don't want to say the embodiment of the Army, but to Upton, the Army is everything. And at one point, the Army really relied on Upton and some of his tactics that he was working on. So I think the best association with Upton would literally be the United States Army. That was his entire life. Of course, he was a devout Christian and spent a lot of times at a very forward-thinking school known as Oberlin College there. So he has a kind of a mix of an academic background, but he really finds himself when he goes to West Point. So yeah, I think a fair statement. Who is Upton? Well, Upton's the Army. It's also coined Upton and the Army's a great book by Stephen Ambrose. If you want to introduce yourself to Upton a little bit too, throw a little plug there for that.
You know, I did a little bit of research on Upton myself. I mean, Upton, as you said, is considered the father of the modern U.S. Army.
100%.
He went to West Point, graduated, was it 1845 class, if I'm not mistaken? Let's see.
1861.
But he's there. He graduates West Point.
The big one.
Before he goes to West Point, though, I have read that Upton was a big fan of Napoleon. And before he went to West Point, he actually studied Napoleon inside and out, try to get into the mindset of Napoleon. Now, how true was that of Upton?
I don't think that the Napoleon aspect comes until until West Point. Upton does have this obsession with trying to get into the military at a very early age, and he's actually shot down by a congressman the first time he tries to go, which is ultimately why he ends up at Oberlin College there, and that's in the fall of 1854. So he's at Oberlin pretty early on. And I guess I should backtrack. So Oberlin is very important to Upton because Upton comes from a place where Oberlin is sort of the go-to college, and that's not where he's from, though. He is from Batavia, New York, and Batavia, New York is pretty pro-abolition at the time of his birth. And so Upton is born in August 27th of 1839. So abolition is still obviously an idea, but it's not spread throughout the country and ignited the war that we all know so well in 1861. So, but in 1839, he's born into this district that's at the time very well known for its forward thinking and abolitionism. And that's something that translates to his time at Oberlin College, because Oberlin is one of those schools that is a big proponent of that. And in fact, it's in 1854, it's integrated. That's huge. I mean, there's not any academic place in the South or that I can think of off the top of my head right now that has an integrated college, male and female. I mean, your race didn't matter at Oberlin. That's something, and that plays a huge role into Upton at West Point. He actually gets into a fight over that, which we can talk about a little later. So for the Napoleon stuff, that's something I've never come across before, to be completely honest with you. And I've read, I don't want to say extensively, but I've gone through over 100 of his letters, right? Many of them are published now in a great 2-volume set that was done by the University of Tennessee. If you find those, always grab him because there's just so much in there you can learn from him in his own words. But just the other letters to his wife, brother and sister writing back and forth while at Oberlin. No. But I have found that he was really interested in opening up a soap mine. I haven't really dug into what that was, but there was this weird 2-week barrage of letters that were really focused on Upton and his brother getting into this lucrative soap mining business. I didn't know you could mine soap. That's, I mean, come on now. But don't really know much about that and what was going on. I really don't, but I love to point that out. I'm just like, so he's imaginative too, because we'll learn. Go ahead, sorry.
Are we talking about like the soap that you clean your body with?
Yeah, we're talking about that. I think I don't know, but yes, there is this backward correspondence. It's back and forth between Upton and his younger brother. And they're talking about a soap mine. So if any of you out there happen to know exactly what that is, the Unfiltered Historian at gmail.com, please email me your source.
Yeah, email me too, because I always thought that soap come from animal fat, lard.
Yep.
I don't know how you mine for soap.
Maybe it's Himalayan salt soap. I don't know.
I mean, Upton maybe had this weird skin fetish thing, was a modern day. Maybe he was the father of modern, women's skincare. I don't know. I mean, but that's
created Old Spice. That's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. Hey, by the way, since we are a History and Brews podcast, before we jump back into Upton, what's the brew choice for today?
So, it's a historical homage, actually, which is why I chose this one. I know it's backwards and blurry. I'll just read it to you. It's called an ultra top secret pale ale brewed from Old Busthead Brewing Company, which is located at a decommissioned base. Very famous one, too. If you know Vint Hill Farms by chance. A lot of people may or may not know Vint Hill Farms, but just a quick plug because I'm in that World War II mood. Vint Hill Farm Station was a location that was used by the Army to conduct intelligence spying on Germany and Japan in World War II. Now, it was used way after, too, up until 93 when Brack closed it down. But a very important thing is intercepted there, and that would be the Japanese ambassador to Germany squawking back to Japan about the formidable Atlantic Wall that was the coast of France in a very soon to be famous after this telegram goes through, of course, and it's intercepted and coded. And that all that information is sent up to Washington, D.C., and June 6, 1944 ends up being a pretty big day in American history. So I don't think that's the only reason it happened, but to know that that interception alone happened here. And it's very cool. It's got a farm building. It looks just like a farm, and you would never know that there's this huge spy operation going on if you were a German flying into American airspace. And that's the whole idea. It sits on a very, very high point. The next highest point, if you keep going east, is Spain from where this location's at. So it just goes down from there, and then it rises again once you reach Spain. So it's a unique and a very strategic location for a spy base. So they're now decommissioned, and you can go get kombucha, you can get a great brick oven pizza, and you can go get beer from Old Mustad, man. And so again, they're paying homage to the fact that it was a base, so ultra top secret pale ale is what we're going with.
Well, I have nothing as cool as that.
What do you got?
Actually, I don't drink, but I love root beer.
So I should have had a Barks. Damn it.
Brews can mean anything. It can mean beer, whatever. This is the Dr. G's 160th anniversary root beer. I don't know if it's still good, but I guess we'll find out a little bit later. I'm still trying to bring myself up to
do it now.
Take
a sip. Yep, there you go.
Oh God,
Is it bad?
Oh yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's gone rotten, dude. After 2 years, that thing is not good anymore. Okay, well,
all right.
I mean, the bottle's still cool. I'm not going to drink the rest of it because it is
empty it out and put it on the shelf behind you for the future.
Yeah, there we go. We'll just switch brews to the old iced coffee here. Geez, that was nasty. Okay, 2-year-old root beer is not good from Gettysburg. Just to in case anybody wants to know. But it is. Geez, man, that would ruin your night if I just took a big swig of that.
I'm glad it wasn't a big swig. I'm glad it was very, very moderate.
No, but I mean, it's still a cool collectible bottle, so we'll just keep the bottle and hopefully something else besides me would drink what's inside.
I can vouch that that's a good root beer when it's fresh. I get it a lot when I go up there. They have the sassafras too.
Oh yeah,
the sarsaparilla. Excuse me, sarsaparilla. They have
yeah, dude. I load up when I go to Gettysburg. I've been saving like that one for a special occasion, and I was like, today is a special occasion with the first episode of this podcast, so we'll break open the last one I had left. And, the last one I had left has been over. It's probably alcohol by now, to be honest with you.
Maybe. I'll have to send you. Appalachian Brewing Company actually has their root beer 5 minutes from my apartment. There's a grocery store around here that actually still carries it. So maybe I'll send you some in the mail. I don't know how that would sound, but science, dude. We'll find out.
We'll figure it out.
That's right.
And so back to Upton here.
We were talking about him. That's right.
Yeah. We guys, that's kind of the theme here. Is this is going to be, the history podcast you can listen to and have a brew to. I mean, we get in depth, we don't get too in depth. We have a little bit of fun.
So we do Unfiltered too, man. I love this. This platform's great. I'm glad you're doing this.
Dude, and Tyler, speaking of Unfiltered, dude, he has some great podcasts. And I can't say it again enough. Dude. Okay, well, I said dude too many times. Dude. Dude, it is really a great channel. You got on some great podcasts. And the thing is, we know everyone that basically comes on all the time is, we got to give a shout out to our best friend, man. Over in England, Daz, we gotta give him a shout out. We're missing, he's got all the good brews over in England. So
what else? He's a Bills fan, and he gave me some crap because I started it. I'm not trying to get sympathy. Yes, I started it, but I love him still. He's great. I do love Darren, even though he's a Bills fan too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can go with football. I mean, someone likes another team, I'm good. Now, where I draw the line is hockey. Now, if it's Washington Capitals through and through, hey, I'm a big Capitals fan. But here we go again, getting me off. We need to get back on Upton, don't we?
I know. He's back. Put his picture back up. That'll help.
Yeah, we'll put Upton's picture back. Here we go. Here's
That's
the
what we're talking about.
dude. So when I look at this picture of Upton, I can't help but to just be drawn to his hair. Like, look at this guy's hair. Just admire it for a moment. I mean, his hair, dude, is like the epitome.
If I didn't have the sideburns, man, I could pull it off.
There you go.
So there's actually, I'm glad you said something about like taking away from this picture. So that's characteristic Upton, as we were talking about. Upton is the Army, right? That's something that a lot of observers or people that are writing letters about Upton. Many say that he's never cracked a smile and he doesn't laugh. He's just this erect, stoic individual, right? I think he tries to portray that as well. I think that's why a lot of it, if you look at any picture, he is so straight and the shoulders are just that symmetrical, and he does that for effect. I'm glad the hair was what got you, but if you keep looking at his pictures and how stoic he looks, that's intentional. That is, he's trying to portray that he is this married to the army soldier. Just maybe soldier is the best word for it.
He is I don't know. He was a serious guy, but
he was
serious about tactics. And a lot of people, when they study Upton, they think about, there's one battle that stands out. Of course, Upton, and a lot about his role at Manassas, because that's the first time he would face the
minimum role that he plays. But yes, he's in Manassas.
Now, what rank was he at Manassas? Wasn't he a lieutenant? Is that correct?
In artillery as well.
So
more so an observer. He's detached to Daniel Tyler at Manassas. In fact, a lot of folks don't know that Henry Warner Slocum, not the Slocum that's killed at First Bull Run, I had to learn to differentiate that. Coming from someone who taught a lot at Chancellorsville and Fredericksburg, like Henry W. Slocum is what I always thought was the only Slocum I get to Manassas. And it was like, nope, one kid's killed right there on Matthews Hill. So now there's two, and I have to always differentiate. So Henry W. Slocum is actually in artillery in 62, and Upton's going to switch to that. Upton's one of the only to say that he had masterly commanded all three combat branches in the Civil War. He's from artillery to infantry to cavalry in 1864 and 5. So he's, again, that's just the embodiment of himself. He is able to literally have successful command of all three combat branches in the Civil War, minus Navy. He didn't get on a ship.
And you just actually answered the question I had set for you next was, did he have experience in all three branches, artillery, infantry, cavalry? Yes. Because, the guy was a genius, and we'll get to why he was a genius a little bit later. I don't want to get there just yet. But, he was a genius, and it all starts, I think, with his first battle at Manassas. That's where he sees the elephant, or sees combat, as people refer to it, seeing the elephant. Where does he go from?
He is not impressed in Manassas either. There is one of my favorite quotes that our generals are like losers, basically. He is in this utter distraught, almost completely distraught. Like he's reeling from the defeat, and I think because of how much of a regard he holds the army, and this is embarrassing and almost personal for him to have the army handled in such a matter as it was July 21st, 1861. And that, I think, drives him to be as successful as he's going to be throughout the rest of the war. I think that this is a formulative experience for Upton at Manassas, and he sees just the incompetence of Irvin McDowell. I wish I had something nice to say about him, but I don't. I will later. But not right now. And you brought up one of my favorite books on Emory Upton. Cool. That's probably the most concise that I've read. Most recent. Fitzpatrick does a great job with his book there. And there's a reason that the book is titled Misunderstood Reformer, but that's when we get to post-war stuff, because the Reformations don't come until post-war. He's going to formulate all his experiences during the Civil War to become a reformer. So, but yeah, at Manassas, it's just this absolute embarrassment to him, and I think that's really what's going to turn his gears to really make him want to focus on bettering the army. But of course, he goes to artillery in 1862, so he's with Henry Warner Slocum just until after Antietam. And after Antietam is when he's going to start being associated with the 121st New York Infantry. The 121st New York Infantry was raised by a congressman in New York who was so excited to see combat that when it happened, he turned his tail and ran and didn't want anything to do with the regiment anymore. And that's how Upton ends up taking command of the 121st. And that's just post-Antietam in 1862.
So where does Upton go after he is disappointed with First Manassas?
He's
what's
still with the
next
Army.
step after that?
He doesn't go anywhere. That's what I was mentioning, is that he is then transferred to artillery, and he's going to be with Henry W. Slocum up until Antietam.
So I know when a lot of people think about Upton, if you know anything about the Civil War, one of my favorite battles to study is, well, campaigns overall is an overland campaign, but one of my favorite battles to study is the Battle of Spotsylvania. And that, of course, is where Upton is really going to, I think, put his thoughts and his words to action, is the way I generally describe what he does at Spotsylvania. Because he just kind of takes it upon himself to, I think, create a altering situation for the American military forever. What he does at Spotsylvania changes the entire course of American military history. And can you elaborate a little bit more on his actions at Spotsylvania?
Now I don't know if it's cool with you, but I kind of want to backtrack a little bit before I
let's go.
I want to revisit Salem Church. Now, Salem Church is sort of the first big battle Upton's going to play an integral role in, and it's not successful for Upton. And it's not. And I'm not going to go into all the details about the battle. If you're interested, there are some fantastic books out there on this battle, Salem Church. Chancellor's Forgotten Poem by Chris Mikowski and Chris White is arguably the best one that is out there, and it is covering in detail what Upton is seeing with the 121st at Salem Church. Highly recommend giving that a read. But there's a defeat there, and it's staggering, the losses that Upton takes. However, Upton is kind of right there up to the front and able to lead successfully. His men take note of that too. This isn't going unnoticed. He's in command of the 121st at Gettysburg. But the reason I'm backtracking so much, Gettysburg there wasn't much. He does get from Maryland to Pennsylvania in astronomical time, which is awesome. But that's not really where this gear and the thinking that you were talking about comes into play. Starting at Rappahannock Station in November of 1863. Now, there are some attacks against some of the Confederate works who are up in ramparts, and Upton is one of them who leads a bayonet charge into the Confederate works, which causes so much confusion that they're able to move from another lunette or a redoubt, it would be the right word for it, and capture some more Confederates. And because of this caused a massive surrender for some of the Confederates there, I believe North Carolina off the top of my head. But it's almost just like, this is the predecessor to Spotsylvania. However, Upton isn't the brainchild of either of these operations. And for an Upton fanboy, that was kind of a blow when I found that out. But it made me look into researching the person who was the brainchild. And of course, he's killed at Third Winchester, in 1864. It's Brigadier General David Russell. Brigadier General David Russell and Martin McMahon really shape what Upton's going to do on May 10, 1864 at Spotsylvania. There's a common misconception that Upton handpicked 12 regiments for the assault he would ultimately lead. That's not true. Upton was handed a command, and we actually have Upton's response recorded to the command that he was given. So he's given 12 regiments. And Martin McMahon asks him, how's that for a command? And Upton says, my favorite line of his entire life. He said, by golly, that is a splendid command, Mac. And then he, so you have this almost like, wow, what's a good word for it? This happy Upton, right? But then it's like, you're expected to carry these works. And Upton says, I'll carry these works. If I don't, I will not return. Or don't expect me to return, something of the sort. So
that's kind of cool that you're mentioning all this, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I knew some about Henry Upton. I know a little bit about him. I knew who he was and why he was important. But that window between Manassas and Spotsylvania, I really don't know. Yeah, I really don't know a whole lot about where Upton is, what he's doing. The whole Salem Church thing. I've never really, spent much time with that, or what he does at Gettysburg. I've never really spent a whole lot of time focusing on Upton as opposed to other guys. And but we do have a question from the audience, guys. If you want to comment, you want to get us some questions, feel free to do so on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below. Light it up. Send your questions. Readout Productions asks, how much did... Oh, yeah, he's a great guy, great channel. Awesome. And guys, go check out Readout Productions, by the way. But he sends you a question. He's asking, I guess, us or you, because honestly, I don't know the answer to this. Excuse me, is how much did the likes of Horatio Wright and John Sedgwick impact Upton's military experience?
Ooh, that's a good question. So Sedgwick's killed May 9, 1864, right? Upton doesn't get to bode with him much after that. Upton likes him. Everybody likes John Sedgwick. And I think there are other reasons. Does he have his reservations? Sure. And it's even to echo Robert E. Lee, honestly, it's that he's slow. And Upton's critical of that as an Army guy. Like, he is critical of Sedgwick's slowness. And to answer your question, Josh, to also help answer Readout's question, they didn't do anything at Gettysburg. They sat on Little Round Top. They got the coolest monument in the world up there. But they arrived just in time to do nothing. Maybe a couple shots here and there, but their monument's not even on what I like to Wright Avenue, the 6 Corps markers and the monuments that are all behind Little Round Top. Nope. Upton's got theirs with the 121st place on Little Round Top. But I don't think there was a lot of love or hate with Sedgwick. I think they appreciated one another. Wright, on the other hand, relies on Emory Upton. And that's evident. We look at Cold Harbor in June 1, 1864. There is the assault that the 2nd Connecticut Heavy Artillery leads against Thomas Clingman's North Carolinians there in the trenches, right? And Upton's known to, whether you believe it or not, to be so appalled by the slaughter that was taking place of the 2nd Connecticut that Upton's leading, not even leading, he's running into the fray himself and using loaded muskets in a tree as cover and firing, trying to rally these men. And that's the kind of guy I think that Wright knows he's got and will use. However, Upton's going to be short-lived with the 6th Corps in 64, going out west, well, west being Shenandoah Valley, and then wounded in the thigh. So that's going to end his 6th Corps career. So he doesn't have a lot of time with Wright to adjust and really form a huge relationship. A lot of this is very on the field. They're moving constantly. It's 1864 Overland Campaign. So there isn't a lot of time to break. There isn't a lot of time for these formal meetings. And Upton's kind of, excuse my French, in the shit the entire time. He's attacking the works that Dole's Georgians are holding on May 10th at Spotsylvania, following up with that on May 12th. He is part of the assault on the Muleshoe in the later portions of that day. And he's doing a lot of maneuvering around Myers Hill. So his guys are just getting grinded down. And this is happening even more so by the time you get to Cold Harbor. So between Sedgwick and Wright, again, Sedgwick's killed. He's still in command. He's still in the 6th Corps at Salem Church. And that's where I'm saying the slowness kind of comes from. But there isn't a lot after that to kind of go off of and give you super concrete answers on. But that's a good question and something I would love to kind of find out myself. If I could find any more of the correspondences between Sedgwick and Upton, that'd be cool to see.
So it's kind of funny to me that at Gettysburg, such a big battle and such a big name as Upton will become later. They don't really do much besides hanging out on Little Round Top, like you said. Having the cold one and hey man, check out what's going on down here. Just kind of in that spot. I don't think they were actually sitting up there with a cold beer, watching.
Upton wouldn't have allowed that.
No. He was. I mean, Upton was. I hate to call him that, but he was. He was square. He really was. He was a square dude.
At times, he's got a soft spot. He's got a soft spot. We'll get to that. He's got a soft spot.
So, Spotsylvania. Let's hit Spotsylvania now. Sedgwick. It's funny that you mentioned John Sedgwick because, well, I mean, that's what kind of the end of John Sedgwick.
Yeah, they hit an elephant.
Yeah, I mean, they got a good lottery ticket punch that day. They took out old John Sedgwick, but it's the events that happened after John Sedgwick's death that kind of elevate Upton. And can you bring us kind of into that? What happens at Spotsylvania? How does the whole situation with Upton unfold? And why did he, I guess, choose to make the decisions that he made at Spotsylvania? We probably need a drink before this one because this is a loaded question.
So he's not necessarily choosing to assault. He's choosing how to attack, if that makes any sense, with regiments that he was given. So again, the common misconception there is that Emory Upton is handpicking 12 regiments, which he does not. He's handed 12 regiments. And his ultimate goal here is to attack a bulge in the line at the Confederate works at Spotsylvania. So not the grandiose mule shoe that we all know, but there's a general by the name of George Doles who is in command of this slight bulge in the line. And there are some probes earlier in the morning by some of, I think Martin McMahon and Russell himself are actually leading a reconnaissance in the early morning hours of May 10 that discover that, and there's a skirmish line that's pushed in. It pushes some Confederates back to what would ultimately be the point of assault for Upton there. And they realize that this could be a potential success if assaulted, right? And the way Upton lines it up is fascinating because we don't see a lot of these assaults. I'm not saying it wasn't done before, but again, this is something that isn't always done. He's going to stack 12 regiments, right? So that's huge. Like this is now a fist going through the line, and each line in that stack will have a designated job. So this isn't the typical run into a line of battle and unload with your muskets. That's not what's going to happen. Men are going to charge into this is World War I in the making, dude. Like this is a trench raid, if you will. Like try to picture that. Try to picture the First World War, men jumping across no man's land, running across, charging with their guns. That's what's happening at Spotsylvania on May 10th. And there's obviously a pretty significant line of abattis and chevaux de frise and all these different obstructions in front of it. And there is a task with the first line to destroy that, to allow the second line in with bayonets and clubbed muskets, and the third line has caps on their muskets to help pour in fire. So the goal is to get into the trench and fan out left and right and push that line to just cause a breach into the trench that would send both sides of that pretty much just collapsing the line. And that's exactly the kind of assault he's going to be able to lead. And he's got some, I wouldn't say secrecy to it. The march goes through a road, which majority of the road is partially in the holdings of the Park Service today. So you can actually walk in those footsteps, which is a really cool and powerful experience if you ever get a chance to just park and walk the wartime road used by Upton. Most of that actually isn't the original part of the road. It connects later on. It's another story for another day. But the Park Service, for ease of access, has created a little trail into what the road would be today. So you can get a feel for sort of the close quarters that you would have to stack those regiments, and just the size of this as well. 12 regiments is no small feat. Regiments field anywhere between 250 and 350 to 400 men, right? There are 12 of these. 12 is, again, not a small number by any means when it comes to this. Oh, cool. You got the map. Yeah. So you'll see that on where it says the "you are here," that marker right there. I'd say about quarter of that is Park Service cut, and the rest of that would connect with a road that you don't see on the map there that Upton would use, because his point of march, or where he starts his march with the 12 regiments, is at a place known as the Shelton Lane, which is a little off map here. The Shelton House doesn't exist within the park boundary anymore, and it is no longer standing, so it's not something that's accessible. But there's a bit of a hike to get to this location here. And what's really cool is up where the modern tree line is, about 500 yards, maybe a little less behind that, are some surviving fortifications that look flipped. So when the Confederates were initially holding it, this would probably be an advanced line of skirmishers to alert the line behind them that there's going to be an assault. When the skirmishers come up and attack that, the Union take that. So they flip the trench. So on either side, the lip looks like you could be standing on either side of the trench and fire at the Confederates up on top, or if the Confederates take it back, they have this side to point down and fight back into the Union Army that are down there in the lowlands. The terrain itself that Upton has to cross is actually extremely deceiving. And again, we're looking at it on a map here, so you can't really tell, but that's very, I could use my favorite word here, undulating terrain. That it's rolling hills, and there are some steep drop-offs there, even with a creek and a creek bed. So he's not marching through easy flat land the entire time.
No, and for you guys that follow the channel here on YouTube, I posted a video yesterday where I filmed Spotsylvania a few weeks ago when we were there, and we walked the ground of Upton's charge, of Upton's attack. And Tyler, you're right, man. That ground, I say it all the time. You can't understand a battle until you really stand on the battlefield. And you do understand it. Once you hit that salient that Upton charges across, the ground is just unforgiving. I mean, it is rolling hills, and during the Civil War, you have line of sight, line of fire. If you can't see it, well, you can't shoot it. No. And I don't understand how anyone could charge through combat fire. Well, artillery going, small arms going, cracking into the ranks, cracking over their heads, and just, add in what is horror of war and chaos, and then you add in the terrain itself. I just, it still boggles my mind how these guys were able to do this.
It is impressive because this isn't, again, a very common route of assault. This isn't something that is done a lot, but I think everybody knows the idea of the importance of what they're about to do if you belong to one of these 12 regiments. I really think there is a sense of, I know the importance of this and I'm going to execute. And I get that because one of my favorites is actually not anyone from the 121st. One of my favorite accounts is, I believe his name is Westbrook. Yeah, Robert Westbrook from the 49th Pennsylvania Infantry, who's part of the line there. And Robert himself writes the regimental history, but is taken out of the war here in this assault. So when the Union under Upton actually get into position, they have a problem. The Richmond howitzers have 2 guns aimed at them. Westbrook is the recipient of a shell to the shoulder. That'll take you out. You don't want to get hit with a shell anywhere, but yeah, a shell to the shoulder. The fact that you survived, that's pretty miraculous alone. But he describes something that I really like to point out here. So there are a few historians who have debated the use of the bayonet at Spotsylvania, right? And it gets interesting how this debate goes. Now, there are no large number of bayonet wounds returned to the hospital, so the surgeons are not reporting a lot of bayonet wounds. To me, I used to just say, well, no, because a triangle bayonet wound doesn't heal, and there isn't a doctor out there counting every single bayonet wound within the angle itself and even Upton's assault from the 10th. And that's just not true. They aren't doing that. They're not out there counting that. So to say that there wasn't a frequent use of the bayonet or armed fighting, I think I wouldn't say a disservice. I just don't think that's correct. I think that you were relying on hospital returns. You're not relying on the actual field of battle itself, and what we can't count because they're dead. They're buried hastily and they decompose quickly. So who can go tell who got poked with a bayonet, right? The reason I bring that up is because 95% of the accounts, and 95 might be a conservative number, 95% of the accounts that I read on the assault on May 10th, like they almost use the same sentence verbatim. The bayonet was freely used. The club musket was freely used. I mean, they're not going to say this if it wasn't freely used. And in the way the assault style is happening, they are definitely using something other than their hands to capture and net what would ultimately be over 1,000 Confederate prisoners. What are you going to do? Go to the rear with your fist? Maybe someone's scared of you. Maybe you're tall and you're stocky and you just got this huge muscular fit that I'm scared and I don't want to fight this dude. We're not putting our dukes up. No, if you have a bayonet pointed at your rear and poking you along, maybe you're going to put some pep to your step and go to the rear. And I think that's exactly, what happens there, because there are wounds, there are accounts of fierce hand-to-hand combat, even before May 12, 1864, maybe even before the Bloody Angle assaults take place on May 12th. This is happening on May 10th. The park claims that this is the Grant uses this as the ultimate assault on the 12th. But it's similar. It is very similar. Many tremendous numbers are thrown into the angle on the 12th. But it's not as like this. And I like to always refer, Upton's attacking like a fist. He's driving that fist through the salient there. And it works. Is he completely successful to where he holds it? Briefly. He doesn't hold, but I'd argue that it was a success because you have now disrupted the enemy's line. You have depleted some of the fighting force that was holding that line, therefore stretching it thinner than it was already stretched before, allowing for the breakthroughs to take place on the 12th.
So, my understanding is once Upton just orders this all-out charge, these guys are running across the field, full speed, not stopping or shooting. They're just head-on charging, ready to beat the...
Shooting. You're right, they're not shooting.
They're ready to beat the crap out of these guys on the other side. And like you said, the bayonet, from everything I've seen too, I haven't went in depth, to look at, really look at the field hospital accounts. And I'm like you, like, what surgeon out there is going to go, hey, dude, welcome in. Yeah, you got a bayonet wound in your butt tops. This one's got a bayonet wound in his butt top. I mean, there's no surgeon out there doing that. These guys are just patching up the guys as quick as they can.
They've got enough on their hands there in the hospitals, spots, especially in the Overland campaign. You've got more than enough going on. You're not sending somebody out to count the dead.
But, I mean, just from the first-hand accounts of these guys, they say, we turn our muskets upside down and beat the hell out of one another with them.
And, I try to keep in mind when these are written or when these are authored because, the further the war gets, the memory kind of fades too. So maybe at the time, this could be, I could be completely wrong. Maybe this is just popular memory. And now that the war is over and these guys are really focused on writing their memoirs, maybe the allure of the bloody angle, the bloody combat that took place there kind of clobbered the mind to where that was the first thing they could think of, was associating it with what happens on the 12th. But like you just said, I truly don't think that there was enough time. And B, there is so much that these surgeons were focused on in these intense fighting. There's no cessation in fighting. It is every single freaking day from the 6th of May onwards, man. Like there isn't a ceasing of fighting that is taking place. So I don't buy that it wasn't as freely used. I think it was. I think absolutely was, because it affected these men. Yeah, it really did. It definitely affected these men, because if they're willing to write it in their memoirs, and this is frequent in many memoirs, then yeah, there was something.
And think about it, man. If you're in combat, you're going to use any. I'm gonna pick up a stick. I'm gonna pick up a rock. I'm gonna pick up anything I can to make it out of there alive. So whether that's a bayonet or the other end of the musket.
Do you have time to reload and to cap your musket while you're charging through enemy lines? You've got reinforcements coming. Rhodes is not cool with what just happened, right? Stephen Dodson Ranger is going to run up into the lines and start bringing some Confederates to enter the fray. Like there is so much happening there. It's just there's so much, man. That's a rabbit hole we can get down. But yeah, so Spotsylvania is Upton assaulting Dole salient. Now, if you look, since you have this map up, I'll just quickly point out that you'll have Mott actually supposed to lead an assault. But the map says it itself. You see where he goes. He goes right up and right back. Now,
I was just going to say, that's the darnest thing about what happens, and it just ticks me off whenever I think about it, is Upton does all of this. These men that Upton are commanding, they do all of this. They run head first into the Confederate breastworks. They take them no matter what the cost is, and they actually hold the breastworks. And then, they're kind of left stranded. There's nobody come to save you.
A coordinated assault. Mott and Upton were supposed to be doing this in conjunction with one another. Now, obviously, there's no walkies to coordinate an assault, and it's so crazy because you can see the field that Mott is assaulting from where Upton's assault breaks through, where that tip of the salient with the holes is going to be, right? But you can't hear it.
No,
They write about that there is an acoustic shadow effect. Now, I mean, there's so much firing happening with on the line, so it's hard to really pinpoint where this was coming from in the first place. But the way the terrain plays a factor there, you do have somewhat of an acoustic shadow when Mott's supposed to. And then the fact that there's an hour difference between the assault, I think Mott jumps off a little earlier than Upton does, and they're not coordinated. So by the time Upton's smashing into lines, Mott's already retreating back to his.
Yeah, and I mean, this map really, I love this map because it really shows the whole picture. Is you have Mott coming in, going right back out, and then you have Upton rushing all of these forces in. He holds. You can see where he clearly breaks through here on the map. Mm-hmm. And then, you have the arrows going back.
Well, and that's the thing with Mott is I try to give him a little bit of credit here because he's also dealing with a mule shoe that is loaded with artillery. Reminder that Lee pulls artillery, right? So when the big bloody angle assault on the 12 happens, the Federals aren't worried or really facing a line of artillery. Boy, there are 4 guns, 6 guns even, just in this mule shoe on May 10. So Mott is not only facing all the infantry who have had time to dig and fortify this salient that has been created, but also there are artillery pieces just blasting you as you're trying to assault these works. And also look at the lines. Look at the difference in the attack. Upton's got 12 stacked regiments. Mott's got 2 big battle lines.
Yeah. And looking at this map, there you go right there. Is that Hayes's battery, I believe?
It's Hayes's Louisianians in line there.
Yeah, and they're pointed those 4 artillery guns.
Not the battery. No, the Hayes is Louisiana infantry.
Okay. But
so it's the Hazy you would think of when it comes to Louisiana. I'm not sure which battery that is that we are seeing. Imagine it belongs to Ewell's Second Corps. I mean, that's a shot in the dark. It does belong to Ewell. But honestly, I wish I could say I don't know who that is exactly.
Neither or less whose artillery that is.
They've got some artillery in there. Lee still hasn't put back the pieces that are in spots. And I should know more about artillery. My great-great-grandfather was right in the middle of Brock Road with Huger. He was pretty prominent spots. But yeah, no, I don't know who that is. Sorry. Normally I do. Well,
I mean, neither or less though. I mean, if you look at this map here, you can see those artillery guns are pointed directly at Mott, who just kind of comes in and goes, "Hey, look at these men I've got. Look at the situation I'm up against." Heck no, turns around and goes the other way, and then So I don't know, man. What do you think would be? I mean, could you imagine it being on the other side of the line here as a Union soldier in May of 1864 attacking this?
I would have liked to be a fly on a tree, but that's about it. They're brave. They're a different breed for that, man. These assaults are brutal, and again, they're formulative because this assault alone is what leads Upton to, I think, start realizing that there is a way out of the. Again, I don't use the word incompetence, but the way the Army is, he sees throughout the war that there are some desperately needed changes that need to occur in order for the Army to become such a formidable force that nobody's going to mess with it. And this isn't it. Like the way it's being run, the political generalship that has just plagued the Army of the Potomac for much of its existence has caused Upton to really want to sort of fix that. And I think Spotsylvania, he sees a way to do so. And what's really cool about that, again, I know I'm reversed, so it's hard to see. I've actually got something that he writes himself after the war, an original. It's his infantry tactics manual that's going to be released into the United States Army. And this is categorically what happens on this map here and what he starts to advocate for. And I wish I could just flip through this for you guys to see because it's so fragile, but I got all the diagrams and all that. There you go. That right there is kind of the product of what you see happen because of Spotsylvania Courthouse. He sees success in these assaults. And again, they're not really his to claim that he came up with. Our founder's dead, killed at 3rd Winchester. Right. Upton briefly takes command when he's killed too at 3rd Winchester, but he takes some shrapnel through the leg, through the thigh to be exact, and that takes him out. which
Oh
leads
man,
to him coming
shrapnel.
back. While the rest of the Sixth Corps is on the way back to Petersburg, by the time Upton returns to service, none other than James H. Wilson has him join Department of Missouri Cavalry. So there's Upton's three. He has went from the artillery with Henry Slocum to commanding infantry. After receiving a wound, commanding infantry, he then goes to successfully, all three, mind you, successfully command cavalry. So Upton is very experienced when it comes to the ways of combat in the 19th century, I would say, minus the Navy part.
He was a freaking genius.
He was.
And what happens with Upton after Spotsylvania? What does the road kind of look like for Upton?
So
after
the big famous promotion, whether you say it happens at Spotsy or it happens at Cold Harbor, he is elevated in brigadier general, obviously all the way up to major general by the time the war's going to close there. He's with cavalry, obviously. He doesn't do Cold Harbor is huge with him because he sees again another catastrophic failure by some of the generalship at Cold Harbor. And I guess the failure necessarily is not a fault. It's the situation that the Sixth Corps finds itself in on July 1st. And then the fact that they have the 2nd Connecticut Heavy Artillery, who was heavy artillery. It's the famous story you see at Lake Harris Farm with the heavy artillery. They're not infantrymen. They're predominantly spending the war around Washington, D.C., guarding a fort with some big guns. And now they're given muskets because Grant needs as many reinforcements as he can get to successfully beat Robert E. Lee. And so he has the 2nd Connecticut pretty much leading in a charge into some seriously entrenched Confederates. And most of you probably know the Cold Harbor story, so I'm yapping. But he witnesses that firsthand and is, again, appalled by it and believes that he himself can change the outcome of that engagement by being right there in the front. Again, another great characteristic of the man himself. But yes, so you have that. You have the cavalry. By war's end, Upton's going to stay with the army and then start focusing on the reforms. But by 1868, he falls in love and marries Emily Martin, who ends up Emily Upton. And they're married in February 19th, 1868. Here's where stuff starts to get a little downhill with Emory Upton. So the marriage only lasts roughly 3 years. Upton is devoted to Emily, very much so when it comes to devotion. He's got a cute little nickname for her, too. He always refers to her as my little pet. It's weird, right? Like, my little pet. So I told you, he's got this soft spot, right? There it is. He's talking about his wife as my little pet. I think he does himself a solid by endorsing himself, assigning it as your devoted husband, Emory Upton. But he starts out the letters after marriage with my little pet and closes, my dearest, lovely little pet, I tenderly kiss you long. Like, he's a romantic. I mean, this is Upton, the stoic, again, like, brick of a man that he is. He is also sort of human, too. We forget that when we talk about these figures from the war, that they are human. They are emotional. Don't you dare tell me that man didn't crack a smile. The guy's one of the freaking soap mine. Come on.
Yeah.
He's smiling.
But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if I ever called my wife, if I go up to her and say, I love you, my little pet, I'm gonna get a kick in the butt.
Before we went live, and I got this death stare. So I know not to say that. He was bold. He was bold enough to say that. Apparently Emily liked it. But so again, the reason I bring that up is to show you that there is this infatuation that you have for each other. And thankfully, if you really want to dive deeper, I'm doing a whole bunch of book plugs.
Here we go.
One of my favorite authors out there, Sal Salela, wrote a great, or it's not even him writing it necessarily, it's him finding the letters between Upton, Uptons, Emily, and Emory. Have a abundant of letters here, which are great. And you can read all about his little pet in that book if you're interested in doing so.
So did they ever have kids? Does Upton ever have a child?
He does not. He is a childless individual for the rest of his life. So
why is it?
Great question. Upton seems to have married Emily in the army at the same time. Their honeymoon is Upton going overseas on military details. to observe other conflicts, to observe other armies, to gather all this information to better his reformation that's going to take place within the army, which is the result of the book that's in the picture right there. And if in another publication he wants to write is sort of a history of the army, where he is super critical of Washington, by the way, so he's not getting a lot of love for that. But he's very critical of Washington, and that's in Upton's Military History of the United States, which he never finishes, by the way. But again, we'll get to that. But so Emily and Emory do travel immediately after getting married abroad and are able to spend time with other armies in other countries. I believe one of them, he finds himself in Constantinople at one point. So the dude's a freaking world traveler post-war, right? When he comes back, what? Sorry.
And when he comes back, doesn't he write a manifesto of all of what he has learned overseas?
And that the result of that is the United States military history. And again, what's in front of you. He's taking all this information he's seeing from other armies operating in the field, and he's combining it to better his army. So he's learning how to fight these people. He's learning how to work alongside these other armies. But he's also really focused on not letting assaults that took place in the Civil War happen again. But in doing so, he's able to travel abroad and get a better perspective of what to do, what not to do. But he uses that excuse as a, hey, honey, we're going on our honeymoon. All expenses paid by the U.S. Army. And that's kind of what happens there. But this is going to start to turn a little tragic for Upton himself. So when he returns stateside, he's detailed out to the Presidio in California. Okay. His wife takes a turn for an illness, and the illness turns out to be tuberculosis. So at merely 23 years old, Emily Upton will succumb to that illness, sadly. And Upton doesn't find out about her demise until roughly 3 months after the fact. Not to mention, he has not seen her in roughly 6 to 7 months before her demise.
Why? Okay, how do you not know your wife died 3 months ago?
To Barbados, one of the God, I am blanking, around the Bahamas, and that was an actual commonality in the 19th century when you had consumption, is what they called it at the time. One of the potential remedies for that was to be in a better climate. Tropical climate tends to be the one that most people came to mind with, and that's where she was ultimately sent to try to convalesce, heal from that illness, which again was consumption, tuberculosis. But she doesn't heal. She ends up falling ill to that. Upton is just devastated is an understatement with that. He dedicates the rest of his short life to the army. And I say short because as Upton's reforming the army and writing these tactical manuals, he starts to doubt himself. And now the doubt comes from a couple different things. One, he's just adamant that the double rank and 4 rank files that he's advocating for, that we see at Spotsylvania Courthouse, are going to fail and kill a lot of soldiers in the American Army, and he can't live with himself with that. But all the way back at West Point, he has an interesting operation done on his nose to remove a growth that was there and that was bothering him and causing some nasal issues, congestical issues, things of that nature. And that could be the start of a brain tumor. There are 2 different theories on Upton's suicide here. So again, spoiler alert. Unfortunately, Upton does take his life in 1881 at the Presidio in California. And there are a few different reasons. There's a great study that is hard to find. If anyone is ever interested, just email me. I'd be happy to go in depth with this, but I see the time's sake. I want to keep it short and kind of brief. But some medical doctors in 1990 for the Military Medicine Journal have really dove into Upton's suicide more so than anyone else in the past have done. And there's a few different takeaways that these doctors, again, 4 different doctors are going to be the ones to do this ultimate post-autopsy, if you will, way after the fact. Again, this is 1990. He's killed in 1881 by his own hand. The tumor theory rings true for more than one reason for me, because they say that the tumor was in a location on his brain to affect his state of thinking. When Upton is found, there are multiple letters. There is what seems to be a suicide letter. There is a letter documenting his belief that he is failing and he is ultimately going to cost the lives of American soldiers with his tactics. This is a letter he was writing to his brother, mind you, and that he would rather not exist than see the failure take the lives of men from the U.S. Army. There's, I think, an unwritten letter to Emily in his room as well. But he was complaining of multiple headaches leading up to his suicide. Upton himself just got into this very dark place in 1881, and again, that ultimately resulted in him taking his own life. And oddly enough, for all you Civil War folks, the person to break the news to the world that Upton committed suicide was none other than Irvin McDowell.
Really?
Really?
Well, why was that? Why was he tasked with
because Irvin
being the one that broke that up?
Was commanding the Division of the Pacific at the time where Upton was stationed.
Okay. Well, so yeah, I mean, when I think about Upton, I generally think of Upton in a few different ways, and I look at the genius that he was.
Oh, and I will agree with you there. He was an absolute tactical genius. But the takeaway I want you to think about today is that Spotsylvania wasn't all him. That assault and the tactics he wants to write about, give David Russell and Martin McMahon the credit. Loop all three of them in. Don't say Upton didn't do anything. I like the way I describe Upton. He was a master at following orders when given. Maybe not so much the innovative tactical genius we've always seen. I mean, he is a genius. Dude's smart. But don't get me wrong. He had the ability to successfully command three combat arms in the Civil War of the Army. He's traveled the world and seen all the different types of countries with their standing armies operate and got an idea for how they operate. And then took all of that information, and not only did he attempt to write the military history of the United States, he kills himself, doesn't get to finish that, but he's also able to successfully reform the Army, because even after he passes away, there's a lull in the 19th into the 20th century where Upton's sort of forgotten. He sort of fallen to the whims of history, right? It wasn't until the root reforms that they realized, wait a minute, Upton was onto something. And then he's back in the spotlight, and he's attributed as a military reformer because his reformation stuck. Even though he doesn't get the credit for it, he still successfully changed the fighting dynamic of the United States Army back in 1868, 70, 81, up until his demise in 81. So what I think, the best takeaway from all this is he may have left this earth thinking that he didn't make a remarkable change and save the lives. Absolutely he did. It was successful. And there's so much, I gave you guys such a brief overview of Upton because it's already been an hour and 2 minutes, and we could do this until 11:30, 12 o'clock tonight. But I highly recommend, if anything, pick up the 2 volumes of his letters from the University of Tennessee. If you want to know the guy, if you want to know what he's experiencing through the war, if you want to know what he's sort of thinking, that's the go-to. But if you want a quick one, David Fitz, you had the book there in the picture.
Let's pull that back up.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite 1 volume overall. It's the best. The Misunderstood Reformer really hits home to kind of what I was getting at, is that he was afraid of failing, doesn't fail. The Army ends up reformed and better because of a man like Emory Upton. So if you want the quick 200 plus pages, very easy bio of Upton, that's it. If you really want to go down the rabbit hole, which I do encourage because he's got some cool stuff, then maybe you can figure out what a soap mine is. Remember, the Unfiltered Historian at gmail.com. Let me know if you find out. You can
let me know too.
You can find all about that there in that. But otherwise, very remarkable figure from the war. One that I've seen a lot of people start to take an interest in, and I'm very happy for that. But I'd love to see more. So if you come across some Upton stuff, give him the time of day. He's worth your read.
Yeah, Upton's been placed on the back shelf of the dusty library shelves. I mean, he's kind of been just stuffed back there, a little bit, and he's starting, at times to peek out from that shelf, and people are starting to take notice a little bit more. And but Tyler, thank you so much, man, for coming on and talking Emory Upton with me. And we have these conversations on a daily basis. You guys don't see that, but it's cool to have.
Too. They're more colorful, I would say. I mean, not that this wasn't.
Yeah,
with a Civil War figure. I will call Josh, or and it's another phone call after that to someone else to complain because I just can't get enough. And I appreciate you letting me have an hour with Upton. I could do more. Always do more.
We could always do more with Upton, and then there's so many other topics that you guys will, of course, hear. This is just one episode of a podcast idea that I've been having now for years. That has finally come to fruition now. That we have a kind of studio space still in the works here to do it, but. You guys will see a lot more of Tyler. He's going to be kind of co-hosting a little bit here on the podcast. We're going to have some interesting conversations. And we're not just going to do Civil War history, but we're also going to tap into World War II. We're going to tap into Vietnam. We're going to tap into sports history. I've got some actually really interesting and some pretty well-known people that are going to be coming on as guests on the show, sports athletes, even some... country music singers at some point is going to be coming on here. So yeah, it's going to be all history, but geared in different history directions. So it gives you a little bit of a mix. And just don't bring 2-year-old Gettysburg root beer from the 160th.
We're going to get some Appalachian Brewing root beer.
This was terrible. This was terrible, dude. It was so good, fresh, but 2 years later.
Cheers. Let's have more.
No, it's not happening, man. It is definitely not happening. I've done some crazy things, but taking another sip of that will not be one of them. Like, this was terrible.
Botulism doesn't sound like a fun time.
I don't think you have to worry about botulism with this. I think that's like tin cans. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know much about botulism other than that smells like an old sock. I mean, I should have knew that. But so before we do wrap up the show totally, let's get some comments here. We've been kind of ignoring them. Let's see. We have Braden Studios pop in. Hey, Mill Syrup Duo. I can never say the guy's name right. He's Duo. Dude, I give up. But he stopped in and said, swinging by to say hello, Josh, and everyone in the side chat. Love the name of the show. Appreciate it. Me and Tyler actually come up with this name together in a way. I think we were, I called him for some advice on, hey, what should we name this?
Yeah, this is cool. I really like this platform too, and I'm happy to engage with everybody.
Oh yeah, and that's what this is made. It's just a layback podcast, where we could come and have fun, talk, as friends, and you got a lot of these podcasts that get dry and boring, and we bring our color to it, and that's what we're going to be doing. So if we making a joke at any point that offends you, let us have it. But I can't promise you what you're going to or not going to hear on this thing. Spicy Tuna Rolls sent I think that's a smiley face. So nice to see you, Spicy.
It wasn't a middle finger, so I like it. Although I accept middle fingers, it's okay.
It's always good. And guys, I know we're a minute and 8 minutes, but who cares? We're having fun. And who says a podcast has to last an hour, huh? Who cares? Readout Productions says, I'm going to try my darnest to be at the ECW Symposium next year. Got to finally get down to Spotsylvania. Dude, Spotsylvania. We talked a little bit about the battlefield earlier. Dude, it's so neat.
I got to come up and see him and see some of the forts in PA because I haven't done that yet. So if you come down to see Spotsy, tours on me as long as you return the favor when I come up to see you in Pennsylvania, man.
Yeah, that sounds great, dude. I need to get up there and see him too. I've been kind of putting that out too, and I need to do that at some point. He also said, count, 1 bayonet, 2 bayonet, 3 bayonet.
Yeah, if you can find me a source where someone actually goes and does that, again, the Unfiltered Historian at gmail.com. It's always open.
Yeah, History Saver 1941 at gmail.com. I want to see it too because, me and you would sit there and just call one another, hey, here's one here. I got another here. By the time, at the end of the day, we'll end up knowing exactly how many bayonet stabs took place at Spotsylvania. I promise you. The History Underground is here. He may still be here. I don't know. But JD from the History Underground stopped in, said, "Crud, late to the party."
Oh, it's all right, JD. Appreciate you stopping by, man.
Hey, man, better late than never, right? So, and go back and watch it later. But I'm just glad you stopped in. But let's see, Dustin Wise, good friend of the channel here, said very late. Met Tyler at Manassas Visitor Center over the summer. Had a great chat.
I'm going to say this publicly. I am a horrible texter. I have seen your text. I meant to respond and I haven't done it. There's no animosity, I promise.
You still haven't tested Dustin?
No, I keep saying I'm going to. I have like 300 something. I wish I could show you my inbox. It's so bad.
I did remind him, by the way. I did remind him.
Yeah, I was like, he did. I will make sure to respond. I got your number. I'm going to save it. You were awesome. I was really happy to meet you in Manassas, and I really enjoyed the conversation, Dustin. I remember exactly who you were. That was cool.
You know, what we should do is we need to have a meetup. Let's get a bunch of us together.
Yeah, let's build this thing up and have that happen.
Yeah. You, I, Project Pass, JD from the History Underground. If he's not too busy, maybe he could get in on the action. We'll get Daz over here from England, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
You know, there's a bunch of us, on YouTube or other places. We should get together and just do a couple of days in Virginia, go into some of these battlefields. I mean, I got to ask you, dude, favorite battlefield in the Virginia area? Let's keep this to Virginia, okay? Battlefield or Civil War site?
You're going to put me on the spot here.
Go. Go. Dustin says it's okay. His wife doesn't test him either. Don't worry.
Dude, same.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, God.
Swig of the sweet tea on that one.
I'm out of beer. Favorite battlefield in the state of Virginia? Spotsylvania Courthouse, unequivocally.
Yes, Spotsylvania would be
my subject matter, obviously, pretty important there. The experiences I've had at Spotsylvania, one of the most profound, happened just recently. I was able to spend some time with my daughter at Spotsylvania. Now she's 4. We didn't get to have an in-depth conversation about all the guts and gore because I'm not going to do that to my daughter, of course. But her happiness by seeing cannons and Civil War is something to me that is one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had on that battlefield. I think it solidified Spotsylvania in my brain, in my heart, as just one of the places I care about the most. So it may not be necessarily for the history, and that's okay for you too if you have a battlefield that's not your favorite because it's so historically driven. I think that's a mixture. I was almost killed at Spotsylvania by falling trees at one point. Fun fact, very seriously close to it. That's a whole other story. Yeah, it was terrifying.
So you almost died at Spotsylvania?
Very close to it, man.
Okay,
this tree fall on the truck I was sitting in too, on top of falling in the place I was just standing before the tree fell. It was.
Who did you tick off?
God. Had to have. I mean, because it was a microburst, so a really severe, quick burst of rain. There were 7 to 8 down trees just within the vicinity of where we were at. I'm sure there were more across, but it was something else.
I don't want to be morbid, dude, but and I'm so wrong for saying this, but dude, you almost died at Spotsylvania. Historically correct. I mean,
it's a place, man. I've had so many experiences on that.
Yeah.
I've seen so many sunsets and that would knock your socks off. One of my favorite ones I spent. There's one of my first YouTube videos. Actually, you can watch that sunset with me as I'm narrating and walking around the battlefield with some really corny music in the background. But yeah, that was like that's first. I had a tripod and everything. I don't think I was supposed to do that back then, but anyways, here we are. Yeah, I was. There were some experiences I've had there, and again, the history, my subject matter, my favorite area to study with Upton and his assault. I think just the memories and the history I've got of Spotsy. I'd have to say that's my favorite in Virginia.
I love Spotsylvania too, and it's funny that you say, are talking about some of the things that you witnessed in Spotsylvania. The first time I went was right after the Emergent Civil War Symposium last year. I rushed out there before it got dark just to be able to say I saw the Muleshoe salient. And when I got there, it just finished raining, and there was a rainbow in the middle of the salient.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it was one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed on the battlefield. And then when I went this year after the symposium, went out there for another, I was out there only 10 or 15 minutes at the most. And when I filmed that little episode, I only filmed that in 15 minutes. That whole episode, 15 minutes. That's all the time I had. But at the same as that spot, when I passed by on the salient, there were 3 deer grazing.
Yeah, I remember you sent me a picture of that.
Yeah, so I was like, there's just something about this place and that spot that, just keeps drawing you back. But I do love Fredericksburg, but I do love Appomattox. I loved Appomattox. I
was able to work there quite a bit, including an anniversary week, so that was cool. I like
dude, Appomattox was like stepping into it, and I called you when I left there. Mm-hmm. Appomattox was like stepping into a time capsule. I mean, it's like everyone just packed up and left yesterday. And it's a fascinating place. It's a really cool place to spend some time.
Amen.
So I'm going to ask you one last question here.
Sure.
Favorite general of the Civil War?
Do I need to answer that?
Of course, I know you're going to say Sheridan, but...
God.
Dude, if there's
Phil Sheridan, no.
If there's one thing we have a mutual hate for, it is Phil Sheridan.
I'm not a Phil fan, dude.
I can't stand him. And anything Phil Sheridan related, well, you can get it out of my face. Like, I don't like Phil Sheridan at
all. Favorite general? Upton. So runner-up is actually Joe Hooker, but let's do an episode on Hooker next, because I'd love to go down that rabbit hole and explain why Hooker's army won Gettysburg.
I am a huge Stonewall Jackson fan. I got to admit that.
I'm not. You want to do it? I'd love to talk about Jackson with you.
Oh, that'll be a good roasting episode.
I won't roast him. I'll just let him tell you how bad he is himself.
Oh, we need.
I'm kidding. He's all right.
Oh, dude, I was getting excited. I was like, we're gonna have an episode where we get to battle.
I'd be happy to. I would. If I have.
Oh, there's an idea.
Look, I look at that man's face every single day. Giant face every single day. I've got some stuff to say about old Stoney.
Well, guys, if you are coming in late, the reason why he's saying that is because he actually does look at Stonewall Jackson's face every day at Manassas, where he works. And Readout Productions, I said earlier, it sounded like you may have worked at the MPS bookstore. You're pointing out books.
Just maybe. Just a little bit.
But I do like Jackson, but I'm a big Stan Waddy fan.
Yeah. That's another episode.
Yeah, it's going to be. Dustin says Jackson, but that aside, I say Claiborne and George Thomas. I would agree with Patrick Claiborne. He loses his life at Franklin. Now he's on the back porch of the Carton house there.
Thomas is pretty dope. I like GHC. Virginians stay with their union. What can't you like about that guy? That's pretty damn cool.
Readout Production says, I think Tyler has got the same chip on his shoulder from Jackson, like the one I got from Washington. And I'll give you a piece of my mind about Washington. You don't want me to get on the subject of George Washington.
I do. That's again, you're just giving me fuel for episodes, man. I love it.
Oh yeah, me and George Washington. Well, I have some mixed feelings about George Washington. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. We may could get into that on the future episode. But well, we do need to get going, guys. We have hit hour and 20 minutes. So we gave you a little extra 20 minutes for our first podcast here.
Yeah.
But we do need to get going. Tyler, thank you so much, man, for coming on. And
Thanks for having me.
it's been fun talking about Upton, dude. It's been fun kind of playing around here at the end and, having a little friendly conversation and a little fun with it. And we'll be doing this more. So you guys have not seen the end of the Unfiltered Historian here because he's going to be coming on, co-hosting with me quite a bit.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me again, man.
Yeah, you'll see us roast, you'll see him roasting Jackson, me roasting Washington, and both of us roasting Philip Sheridan. But until then, guys, thank you to the Unfiltered Historian. Go check him out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Check him out on Instagram as well. You can find him there. And he's doing some cool stuff. Got some cool podcasts and some really cool interviews, including some mafia stuff, which is pretty cool.
I'll be back out in April, so another one.
Dude, we need to do some mafia stuff here. I think that would be cool. That would be cool. I'm just going to change my address and my telephone number afterwards. But we should do some really cool mafia episodes. Guys, you got to go check out his channel and check out that interview. It is by far one of the coolest interviews I've ever seen anywhere. And I'm not just saying that because Tyler's a friend. Like, that was an interesting interview.
Yeah, between him and the guy that electrically engineered the Titan sub before it imploded, there's some cool stuff. If you guys ever get a chance to go check it out.
There you go. Go subscribe to the Unfiltered Historian here on YouTube and Instagram. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button here as well. And get the bell notification on so you'll see every time we upload. And, glad to add the podcast to the mix. So you guys can look forward to this podcast. We're still playing with the schedule. But we will be bringing you at least one or two a month starting off. And then some more later. But maybe we can get to the point where we do it every week. I don't know. Cool. Yeah. And also, we got to plug in Emergent Civil War. Go check out emergentcivilwar.com. You can find more of Tyler there, where he's a social media manager. And support Emergent Civil War by visiting emergentcivilwar.com and Emergent Civil War on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all around. They'll see you online and on the battlefield. And thank you to Dressing Gettysburg and Lionheart Film Works for sponsoring the channel. And Tyler, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, everyone.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Until next time, keep preserving history, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Bayonets and Brews.